Good morning. My name is Minnie Gonzales. I'm a state representative. I represent the 3rd District here in Hartford. I'm stand here today with my colleagues, Representative Chris Rosario, Chairman of the Black and Puerto Rican Caucus, Representative Dimassa, and Representative Juan Candelaria, Deputy Speaker, to talk about accountability in the judicial system. As a legislator and as a member of the Judiciary Committee, I have heard many stories about how the system affects people, especially through our divorce court system. Many times people's lives are in the hand of judges and the court system, so we need to have judges that follow the law without fail. That is why when it comes to approving or not approving the nomination or reappointment of judges, we must consider everything very carefully. The purpose of this press conference today is to talk about important issues that we have with the system, with the current nominations. And also I'm going to mention that we also have with us here State Representative Edwin Vargas. And at this point, I'm going to turn over to Representative Chris Rosario.
Hi, good morning, everybody. I'm Chris Rosario. I'm State Representative of the 128th District, City of Bridgeport. I'm also the Chair of the Legislative Black and Puerto Rican Caucus, and I'm here in support of Representative Gonzales to talk about accountability in our judicial system. You know, I had a written statement. However, yesterday I had the opportunity to watch a documentary on Vice on HBO called Raised in the System. I highly recommend that everyone have the opportunity to watch that documentary. The reason why it's important is because 1 in 3 men of color, whether they're African American, Latino, they go to prison. A lot of times I see and I hear from constituents and even my own family members that I visit here in the correctional system, instead of getting help, they get heavy-handed sentences, especially when we're dealing with the opioid crisis. So that's one of the reasons why we're here today, to talk about accountability, make sure that the system is fair to everyone, especially those that are most vulnerable and those that are the most needy. It is important that when we select judges that they're fair and balanced and make sure that they have the compassion to communities of color. So I want to thank Representative Gonzales for putting this together, and I'm going to turn it back over to her. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Rosario. And now we have Representative Dimassa from West Haven.
I want to first thank Representative Gonzales for putting this together, and certainly it's an honor to stand here with my colleagues. Listen, you know what? We talk about accountability, we talk about fairness, we talk about justice. We have a system that's broken here. And we have a system that, depending on who you are, depending on what background you come from, depending on what your race is, you're not treated the same. And that's a problem. And when we have a system where judicial nominees or renominees, people that are renominated, come before us, we have the responsibility to the citizens of Connecticut to view those nominees and make a fair, balanced decision on who deserves to either serve or continue to serve, and who hasn't done the job that the residents, the citizens of Connecticut deserve. That is our job. That is our responsibility. And, you know, far too long, many aspects of this system have gone unchecked. And that is why it is an honor to stand here with my colleagues. And let me say this, you know, over the past few weeks, I've seen a lot of comments, some on Facebook, some in third-party publications, questioning some of my colleagues' motives. And it's really disheartening to me, because I can tell you without a doubt that there isn't a person standing behind me that isn't challenging the current system for any other reason other than they know it is wrong and they know it is not serving their constituents. When you go to court, and I've had constituents come and see me literally break down crying in my office because they're afraid of the judge presiding over their case. They're afraid to go back to court. No one should ever be afraid of our legal system. It is supposed to be there to protect them. It is supposed to be there to protect those who don't have the means to take care of and protect themselves and their children. And if that is not what the system's doing, then it's broken, and we're going to address it. And I know that my colleagues standing behind me are going to address it, and we are here for you, and it is an honor and a privilege to stand with them. So I will turn it back over to Representative Gonzales.
Thank you, Representative Dimassa. Now I want to also acknowledge another state representative with us from New Haven, Representative Porter. Now I'm going to turn it out now to Representative Juan Candelaria.
Thank you, Representative Gonzales. I stand here with my colleagues because I think we need to come together. As you have heard already, the system definitely is broken and we need to fix it. They might say, this is a tough uphill battle, but you know what? We have to confront that battle because when the system's not working for the people, then we have to repair it. When we look at the process for filing a complaint against a judge, people have lost faith in that process. We have the Judicial Review Council, and we need to start looking at that composition, see who's sitting on that council, because people have lost complete faith in it. How do we take that system and reconfigure it in a way that people can come back, leave the fear to the side, and know that they will get a fair process? That's what we need to do, and that's why we're here today, because we will fight together, united, to ensure that this system really represents these people. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Representative Candelaria. We have two more state rep here, and I know that they would like to say a few words. Representative Vargas.
Thank you, Representative Gonzales. Just briefly, I'd like to say people have questioned whether or not we as a legislative body have the right to question people coming before us to serve on the bench. There's a reason why there's a vetting process. There's a reason why every 8 years the statutes say the judges come before the legislative process. If it weren't for those statutes, we would have no role. Those statutes are there not for us to be a rubber stamp. Those statutes are there for us to evaluate the performance of people who have been given a grave responsibility of wearing the robes of justice in the state of Connecticut. The founding fathers wanted balance of power. They wanted an executive separate from a legislative branch, and they wanted a judiciary separate from the executive and the legislative. And each of those branches was supposed to be a check and balance on the other. So no one has a right to question this legislature when this legislature exercises its legal duty to review these judges that come before it. So thank you very much for your support at this press conference.
Thank you, Representative Vargas. And now with us, State Representative Robyn Potter.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you all for being here. And thank you to Representative Gonzales for pulling this together. I can't tell you how important this is. This is crucial. It is critical. I won't belabor all of what's been said. I think it's been pretty much succinctly said. But what I will do is differ in opinion when my colleagues have stated that the system is broken. I personally don't believe that the system is broken. When we say it needs to be fixed, I believe it is fixed. And it is doing what it was designed to do. I think that we need to dismantle and reassemble, and I have issues when we talk about reform. So I stand here today encouraging all of those behind me to actually put our hands to the plow and get it done. It's a heavy lift because we're dealing with a system that is pretty much been able to police itself, has given people the idea that it is above the law. I have people come into my office, much like the good Representative Dimassa mentioned, in tears. I've been in tears when they have left. I have been in tears while they have been sitting with me because I can't believe some of the things that people have been subjected to. And I won't say that it's just people of color. I have white people come in my office and have these discussions with me as well. So for me, it runs across the board. It's everyone. It impacts everyone. Yes, it disproportionately impacts people of color, but everyone everyone is impacted when there are injustices in a system that was designed to do what it's doing under the fallacy of justice, of an equal scale of justice at that. And we know that the scales of justice are not equal. So I want people to think about that. And I encourage those that have been coming to us to discuss these matters to continue to have the intestinal fortitude and the courage to do so. Because we can't fix anything, we can't change anything if we don't know the facts. And I'm one that believes experience is my evidence. So if you have experienced the injustice, please, I'm not asking for data. I feel like I am the data. And that should hold a hell of a lot more weight than numbers on a page. So thank you once again to Representative Gonzales for doing this. I thank my colleagues, the activists, the advocates, and everyone in this room that took the time to be here to hear about this important issue. And I encourage you to keep the faith, because we are fighting, we are listening, and we are determined to turn this thing around. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Porter. And at this point, I would like to ask someone that has first-hand experience and the same concern that we do to speak. Attorney Paul Garlinghouse.
Good morning. My name is Paul Garlinghouse, and I'm a lawyer. I've been a lawyer in Connecticut for nearly 18 years, and primarily practicing in the area of family law. I've seen a ton of judges, and by and large, I have to say that those men and women have done their best to try to make fair decisions and to try to follow the laws of the state of Connecticut and the Constitution of the United States, because the Constitution does provide fundamental protection for the rights of parents to care for their children. Which is why I have to tell you guys today from firsthand experience what happened to my client, Derek Myers, in Judge Jane Emons' courtroom was completely illegal and out of the ordinary and in complete defiance of the statutes that give all of our judges their power. What happened was Derek, who's the father of a boy who's now 5, filed a custody action against the mom. Now, that's proper. When mom and dad have a kid together and they're both on the birth certificate, there's no determination of who has the rights to have that child when. You have to file a custody action, which he did. And he was granted that custody initially. But then he came in front of a different judge, Judge Emons, and inexplicably, she allowed a distant relative of the child to have custody. And she did this without following the statutes that the legislature passed to protect the rights of parents. Specifically, and the case is called Fish versus Fish. It's a 2008 Connecticut Supreme Court case, if you wanted to look it up. And it says very clearly in black letter law that if some non-parent wants to come in and intervene in a custody case between the parents, that they have to file a motion and they have to prove that they have a parent-like relationship with the child and that it would be harmful to the child to be in the custody of their parent. Now, that's not easy to show. It's unusual that someone could show that, and that's deliberately there to protect the rights of the parent to have their child. Now, they train judges, so the judge must have known this law, but without any of those procedures being followed, and in a very high-handed manner, she handed over custody of the kid to this other person. Now, Mr. Myers didn't have a lawyer. Most of the parents, most of the parties that come into our courts in Connecticut cannot afford lawyers and do not have representation. Nonetheless, he said correctly, I'm the father. I don't have to hand over my child to her. Now, that is absolutely correct. And never during 2.5 more years were those findings ever made. Never was that motion ever filed. There was none of that done. And I want to say that there have been a lot of smears made against people, including my client, who's sitting right over there. And I want to make very clear, right here and now, that in all that time and in all the issues we reviewed about Judge Emons' illegal orders, whatever religion she might happen to be was completely unknown to us, not to mention irrelevant. And for people to come forward and to try to cast smears on my client, who has fought steadfastly for 2.5 years to get his boy back, with these kinds of smears against their intentions, I find to be reprehensible, and I want to put that to bed once and for all right here in front of you all. Now, Judge Emons has never corrected her illegal action. She followed her illegal custody order with a whole series of illegal restraining orders. Those illegal restraining orders also violated the statute, 46B15 if you want to look it up. And they were overturned eventually by the appellate court, but too late. They'd already gone on for over a year, keeping him separate from his kid by court order for over a year. And then that went on further. She made further illegal custody orders, none of them following the Connecticut statutes which give the judges their power. This system may or may not be broken, but I have to tell you that there has been, to this minute, to this day, no accountability for the illegal and harmful actions that Judge Emons took, because this child was deprived of his dad for over 2.5 years, and that has harmed him, and it was wrong.
Thank you, Attorney Garlinghouse. Thank you for being here with us. We also have another attorney that went through a lot of issues with the court, especially with Judge Emons, Paul Greenan.
Good morning. Thank you for being here. My name is Paul Greenan, and first I would like to thank Representatives Gonzales, Rosario, Dimassa, Representative Vargas, and all the members of the Black and Latino Caucus who have invited me to be here. And Ms. Porter, thank you. As well as members of the legislature, both Republican and Democrat, who are working together to improve our family court system. I would also like to thank the members of the press. Before I discuss Jane Emons, let me first tell you a little bit about myself and quickly dispel the notion that those of us seeking improvements to our family court system are all disgruntled, crazy litigants, which is a label commonly applied to us to the benefit of those who want the status quo to remain. I am an attorney licensed to practice law in the state of Connecticut since 1991. I have been licensed to practice law in the state of New York since 1992. I am licensed to practice before the United States Tax Court and the federal district courts. I hold an undergraduate degree in accounting from New York University, an MBA in finance from the NYU School of Business, and a law degree from Fordham Law School. I gained my professional legal experience at the largest law firms and investment banks in the country, including Skadden Arps and Morgan Stanley. I presently run the Greenan Law Firm in Stamford, Connecticut. My practice includes litigation, family law, and probate. I stand here before you because it is my professional and ethical obligation to do so. I stand here not just on my own behalf, but on behalf of who I believe to be those attorneys, many of them who have appeared before Judge Emons over the last 8 years, and as a result of those experiences, believe that there are more suitable candidates in this state who can fill this family court judge position. It is regrettable but understandable that many of my colleagues are afraid to speak publicly. They fear, I suppose, retribution if Judge Jane Emons is reappointed, and they must bring their clients before her again. I am also here to speak on behalf of the parents, many of them who are gathered here today. most of them pro se, not able to afford their own counsel, and who have appeared before Judge Emons. Many of them are minorities, but Judge Emons does not discriminate. They have no voice, and they are often afraid to speak out due to fears of retribution because the stakes are very high. The stakes can be the custody of their children. And of course, I am here to speak on behalf of the true victims of judicial misconduct. And those are the children whose lives are forever turned upside down by some of these outrageous orders which she has entered consistently over the last 8 years. I have represented several clients before Jane Emons. I have also had the opportunity to observe her handling of many, many cases. What I have observed chills me, and it should chill everyone in this room. To me, her conduct is nothing short of a stain on the legal profession. It's a stain on our judicial branch, and it's an insult to Governor Malloy, who has nominated her for reappointment. I have personally observed or had clients or other attorneys describe a pattern of conduct which includes bullying, suppression of evidence, ignoring the rules of procedure, complete lack of legal knowledge, off-the-record hearings, not subject to court recordings, decisions rendered with little or no basis in factual or legal reality, complete and total disdain for pro se litigants, and all the conduct is resulted in her being one of the most appealed and most overturned family judges sitting on the bench today. And she is the most grieved. I believe she has set the record in the state for 29 grievances filed against her during her tenure so far. And this is who is up for reappointment. But most shocking, and this hurts me personally, she condones the publication of court orders which contain children's personal information, such as their names, their addresses, discussions of the children's mental health, and very personal information concerning their parents. My personal belief is that the drafting and publications of such orders is meant to embarrass and punish certain parents, branding their children for life with a scarlet letter, which can live forever on the internet and turn up whenever that child Googles their name. But as to her own family's information, it's another story. With that, she is very protective. Some years ago, myself and my colleagues noticed that she and her husband had sued a bank for emotional distress due to a change in an interest rate. We watched the case very carefully. We watched as portions of the file became sealed without public notice, and then we watched as the case disappeared entirely off the judicial system. That's curious. It came as no surprise to me during her renomination hearing that she was unable to even cite one of the 16 factors to be considered in determining the custody of a child. Now, these are not difficult factors. They include such things as the wishes of the child, the wishes of the parents, whether or not the child's been abused, and whether or not the child needs certain developmental assistance. It is inconceivable that a family court judge with now 8 years of experience is unable to recite a single factor to be considered in fashioning a child custody order. It is inconceivable, but completely unsurprising in the case of Jane Emons. We have over 20,000 licensed attorneys in the state of Connecticut. Most of them are hardworking, we're ethical, and we're capable. The position of family court judge is one of great honor. anyone who's appointed should consider it a blessing. These judges determine the fate of our state's most precious resources, and that's our kids. And when parents divorce and custody is in dispute, it's these judges who will determine that child's future. A family law judge, or any judge, must listen to the evidence. They must apply the law, and they must make appropriate decisions, all while conducting themselves in a personally appropriate manner with respect for the families that come before them for help. Is it really the case that this judge is the best possible candidate that Governor Malloy can nominate for reappointment? Out of more than 20,000 attorneys in our state, is this the best candidate? I don't think so. In closing, let me say, this isn't a partisan issue. This isn't a battle. There can be and should be no sides. There's only one side here, and that's the children's side. What's best for the kids? The renomination of Jane Emons to the bench is a concern to both Democrats and Republicans alike. We have some wonderful, talented, and wonderful, caring family court judges sitting on the bench. We have a head of the family court system, Judge Bizzuto, who I believe is working hard to change and improve the court. We had a Chief Justice, Justice Rogers, who recently retired, who brought much transparency to our system. And we have attorneys, many of us who really care, and we really want to do what's best for the kids. But our judiciary is only good as the ingredients we put into it. It's only as good as the judges who are nominated and thrust upon them by our executive branch. If we have bad judges being appointed, no matter how hard our judiciary tries, we're doomed for failure. Thank you, and I appreciate the opportunity to be heard.
Thank you very much. And now we have with us Maureen Mortosca. She's not here from Connecticut, but she's been very, very involved. And I know that she would like to say a few words.
Thank you, Representative Gonzales, and I want to personally thank each and every representative who's here behind me. I know they come with great concern for the families and the children of this great state of Connecticut. And though I was born in Connecticut and raised in Connecticut, I now live in Massachusetts. However, personal experience has brought me here to Connecticut for other family members and for those families that fall behind in the tracks of those who have suffered already, that they will not have to go through the same torture that this family has experienced. But I want to say one thing as a resident of Massachusetts and as a retired corporate attorney. I'm not a licensed practicing attorney here in Connecticut, but I do hold a law degree. And, you know, in Massachusetts, as we've had Father Geoghan as an anchor around the neck of the Archdiocese of Boston, so too is Judge Emons, an anchor around the neck of the judiciary branch. Whether abuse comes at the hands of a priest or a judge, the long-term detrimental effects of children and their families is the same. I'm a member of the Connecticut Family Coalition for Court Reform. I have many families, thousands who have approached us in despair and worry for retaliation. And the fact that there are 29 complaints and this woman is still a nominee for reappointment as a judge is a disgrace to the state of Connecticut. And I hope you will consider that. Thank you.
Thank you. As you can see, we have very serious concern with reconfirming Judge Emons. At the Judiciary Committee meeting held on February 16, 2018, all of us at that committee noticed that there were assisted 29 formal complaints on this particular judge over 8 years as a judge. This is the highest number of complaints given my 18 years in Judiciary Committee, and it's the highest number of complaints I have ever seen or heard about my entire 22 years here in the House. It is a poor choice to allow Judge Emons to be reappointed. We have the opportunity to demonstrate a fair commitment to the citizens of our state by letting them know that we are hearing their concern and that we will protect them from incompetent judge, family court judge. Judge Emons lacks the necessary empathy that this family deserves. She has the ability to permanently destroy the life of our innocent children and their family. It is our moral duty and our responsibility to end the cycle of incompetent judge, court family judge, getting reappointed just because that is the way it has always been done. And at the end, I will say that one of the cases that Paul Garlingham was talking about, it was about Derek Myers, the kid that he was kept away from the father for 3 years. Well, guess what? This is the good news. After he came, the parents came here and the family came here and testified. That Judge Emons, was replaced by another judge. And the judge heard both sides, and after hearing both sides of the story, she vacated the Judge Emons' orders, and she returned that kid to the father, and they are here today. So that's a great news, and thank you all for coming, and we open for questions.
So is this supposed to come up in the House tomorrow?
Judge Emons, she must be in the calendar for tomorrow. Or she's in the calendar for tomorrow. We don't know if they're going to be called or not, but she is supposed to be called tomorrow.
And are you calling for scrutiny for any other judicial nominations or just Judge Emons today?
Up to this point, Judge Emons.
And what about Malloy made 16 nominations last week of attorneys to become judges. Should we be filling all of those positions right now? Does the judicial branch need that in order to carry out its mission?
Well, that's a decision that us as legislators we have to decide, and that's something that we have to talk about and discuss it.
Okay. And what about the nomination of Richard Robinson for Chief Justice as the leader of this branch?
I know that it's too soon to say anything. We haven't met with him, so we don't know.
You mentioned more structural problems. Are you calling for anything specifically other than not reconfirming Judge Emons?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that question?
You started off the press conference by speaking about more structural problems in the judicial system, and are you calling for any other specific changes today, or just?
Well, right now, the group that you see behind me, of the all legislators, we're talking about how we can improve the system, and that's what we're planning to do. Maybe for this year it's kind of late, but maybe for next year, we're planning to see how we can fix the problem that we have in the court, especially the family court.
And have you been in discussions with the judicial branch about these concerns specifically? You laid out a lot of criticism today.
For many years.
And how have they responded to those comments?
Well, in the beginning, it was hard for them to accept it, but then I think that at the end, they do realize that it's a lot of problems. Because parents that come here and testify, they're not disgruntled like they call them, disgruntled parents. They're just suffering for what they are going through. And they know that it's a problem. And I know that I met with Judge Basura a couple of times, and she said that she is willing to sit down with us and to see how we can bring more changes to family court system.
The accountability higher up than the judge as far as, they're being appointed. So the judge appointed is the end result of a decision made, so the accountability has to go up that ladder. So, who's watching the watchers?
Very good question. And I've been asking myself and the administration the same question. More question?
Minnie, why were you so active against the nomination of Andrew McDonald? Why was he held accountable?
Well, first, I think that I have my own personal opinion about that. And I think that I see his temperament. And in my opinion, I don't think that he is capable to run the whole system that we have so many problems. And again, I want to say it's not about religion. It's not about culture, nothing like that. It's about his temperament, and in my personal opinion. Thank you. Any more questions? Well, thank you all for coming. Thank you very much.